Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. It is the season of politics, at least the first phase of it. And as you know, we tidied up the presidential candidates of the parties. And we're now moving into the phase of, so who are going to be their running mates, and all sorts of calculations, permutations, consultations are going on. Let's look at that today. We sort of have been hearing about the, shall I say, two leading parties in the contest. They're by no means the only. There are 18 registered parties in Nigeria. What we know about the PDP and the APC, at least the work that they are doing towards beating the deadline, which is Friday, INEC's deadline for submission of the list of all the running mates. Now, the ruling party and indeed the leading opposition has said that it doesn't need till Friday. It probably will be, submitting by tomorrow, Wednesday. Same thing with PDP. But let's find out from the others. Our guest this morning is Mr. Adewale Adebayo. Mr. Adebayo is the SDP Social Democratic Party presidential candidate. He's also an entrepreneur. He's the owner of Kaftan TV. Good morning to you, sir, Mr. Adebayo.
Good morning.
Now,
Mr. Folani, good morning.
Thank you very much. Yori, please. Thank you very much. Now, so where are we? You are the presidential candidate of your party. Is it a simple matter, or is it as shall we say, complex or complicated or involved, as we are hearing from other parties? Have you decided on a running mate yet?
Yes, I've decided, but I'm consulting. So we've always had a large talent pool, and we want to give Nigerians a first taste of our decision making. But it's not that I don't know what they are going through on the other end, but here we are looking at a competent ticket, and we are trying our best to see that we give Nigerians a new representation.
Okay. What are the guidelines that you followed in your party, by which I mean, you have the person.
That person should be able...
Are you able to share with us the person that you said you have in mind, or it's still a matter under consultation?
It's under consultation. Ideally, we will announce with the party, but the idea is that the person should be someone that, number one, can advise, can assist while I'm discharging my duties. I should be someone that, in any eventuality, Nigerians should be able to accept easily as a president. And it should be someone who is there to assist, not using it as a ladder to climb to the next stage. It should be someone who is coming to assist, to see that is the chairman of the Economic Council. That person should be able to discharge that duty, should be able to tell the president to his face, you are on the wrong path, stop it, don't do that, and things like that. Should be the last person in the room who can advise you. It's not... and it should not be a position for rewarding somebody for how they help you to get there and all of that. It should be someone that, if you are sleeping, the person is awake. If you are traveling, you don't hesitate to leave responsibility for the person. And if something goes wrong in the country or goes wrong with me as a person, I'm a human being, anything can happen to me, the Nigerians will not regret and say, oh, how did we get to this kind of person? And those are the guidelines that I...
What other parameters did you take into mind in SDP? I'm talking here of, as we've heard with other parties, the whole matter of your religion. Some are saying that isn't even something that should come into it. Your religion, I don't know your sex, whether you're a man, you're a woman, but in particular on the question of you being a Muslim, therefore having to choose a Christian, and you being a Christian, therefore having to choose a Muslim. What are your thoughts on this particular aspect of our polity?
Those are the problems they've caused for themselves because of the manner in which they have practiced their politics over time. They've always been playing the politics of it's my turn, it's my turn. And when you play the politics of it's my turn, then you have problems in turn. So I want power to shift to the Nigerian people. I want a presidency that represents the Nigerian people, that gives the underprivileged people an opportunity to have a say in government, to represent the professional class, educated class, who have not been allowed to exercise their function in any principal capacity, to also take account of the fact that the country is diverse and that everyone should not feel, no one should feel alienated. That's the extent to which we can go, but we cannot go into such divisive and antediluvian parameters that people use. I believe that Nigeria has talent everywhere, and primordial analysis don't work in SDP. What matters is that those who have been shut out of government for a long time, that is, patriots, professionals, the underclass, the underprivileged, they should be represented in government, so that it is not a government of lobbyists, it's not a government of money bags, it's not a government of cronies and all of that, and it's not a government that is just changing the head only without changing the presidency as a whole. We are coming for an overhaul, and you will see that in our team, you are going to see an overhaul.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Returning for a moment to the point you made about some of our primordial sentiments, also very important in choosing a running mate would be the, shall we say, vote pulling capacity, you know, of that person. That is, if the person is as widely known as their principal, and if they're likely to make, you know, some electoral fortunes as a result of choosing that particular person. In this time of, of our political development in Nigeria, what are your thoughts as to whether we can jettison all of those, or we have to be pragmatic about it and really consider what shall we say, the polity sort of has brought on as something of a norm, that if it's one, if one is of a particular faith, then the deputy or the running mate or the vice president should not be of the same faith. Some have made the argument for, look, it is efficiency and competency that matters. What are your thoughts on this? Competency, yes. Do we still have to pay, at least in your case in the SDP, do you think there's a need to pay attention to some of those primordial sentiments and not dismiss them out of hand?
Well, as it is today, the SDP is the best party. We are not in the business of giving advice to other parties when it comes to the problems that they are facing. In fact, I have spent 20-something years of my life as an advisor, as a lawyer, giving advice to my clients. But now, I myself need advice because I'm now the person who is on the seat making decisions. So what I can say is that we will take our own action, we will announce our own team, and they can learn from that, and then they would probably find solutions to some of the intractable quagmires that they've created for themselves in the manner in which they have done their politics. So what we are doing is that I will not choose a person who cannot do the job just because I want to use the person to win an election. That's already acting in my own self-interest, which is not what the president should do. I will choose someone that I know will be the best for Nigeria as vice president, and if anything unexpected happens, will be a good president for Nigeria. Okay. And if I'm on holiday or I'm on vacation, will be a good acting president. Whether the president can win election or not is not even the issue, because there are other people in the party who can win elections, who can talk on our behalf. So a vice president is not supposed to be a person who fixes ballots. It's a person who can be a good advisor to the president, a good advisor in a lonely office, and a person who can be a surrogate for you. Okay. And a person who can discharge that office, will not embarrass you, will not privatize all the property to himself, is not going to be looking for a war chest to create a political campaign in the future. He's going to be someone who will be my #1 critic. When people are clapping for me, he will come into the room and say, hey, you know, you are not doing well, you need to do better. That's the person I need. I don't need another big man or big woman. Okay. I need someone who will tell me, who will remind me of our oaths to the people of Nigeria, and who will look me in the face and say, I disagree with you. That's the kind of person I want, not another political bigwig somewhere. It's someone who can serve the Nigerian people, because the people have been underserved for too long.
Okay, thank you. But when I asked the question, I didn't mean for you to advise other parties. I was really talking about women. Maybe we could learn something, since we are watching all the other ones. Maybe we could learn something from the political process that you are going through, the consultative process, which I think you've sort of explained. The other thing, in SDP, are you pro-women, for example? In the U.S., the American president, chose a lady. Does SDP subscribe to those kind of ideas? Or, it is what it is. The ladies have complained that they don't get a look in as much as they should. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, SDP probably is for this election for a lady. The person who was runner up to me in the presidential primary was a lady, Khadija Kunolamidi. So we have a good record with women. Women know that we have their interests at heart, and women are not ruled out at all. Don't be surprised if the VP is a woman, and don't be surprised if the VP is a man. But women are in the basket, and men are in the basket, and we are consulting.
Okay. Well, it's interesting the way you put it. That look, the kind of vice president you prefer is one who can talk straight, as it were, let you know, so to speak, speaks the truth to power. So that must be a person you have a relationship with, that you trust, and that you will not take offense over. It's not very Nigerian, dare I say.
Well, generally, I take advice. In fact, the advice I like the most and I'm most grateful for is bad advice, because at least it tells me what not to do. And I also like good advice. So I don't discriminate against advice. I don't feel insulted when I'm advised. You can advise me rudely. If you have good advice for me, you can put it on a piece of paper and smack it on my face. I will still read the advice, because what's important is that when I do what is right, I'm the one to take credit for it. People call me presidential candidate of the SDP. But there were so many errors I committed along the way that many people corrected me, and today I'm the candidate. So in the same way as president, I'm not the wisest person in the room, but I'm the person who is most determined to get the best to happen. And a successful presidency is what we are looking for. It's not just to be elected president and there's a life of no consequence. I don't want to be seen as a former head of state, and there are no roads to many places in the country. There's insecurity. I want to perform. I want to serve. I want to achieve things. And that's what I'm focused upon. I know there is politics. There is the winning of the election and all of that. I'm not naive about that. But I'm thinking that what does it matter if you are actually elected and you make no difference? It is better not to be elected than to be elected and Nigerians don't feel that this president has been useful to them. Because it's a journey. We have mileage to cover, and we've lost a lot of miles. So we need to start doing things differently. We need to start looking for a president who wants to serve, who is interested in bringing people to serve, and who has the humility to allow all shades of opinion. I don't want to be a majesty. I don't want to be, I'm from a royal family. I know what a king is. I don't want to be a king in the State House. I want to be a servant who is coming to serve, and my first president will know that he's serving the servant, and my ministers will know that they are serving the servant, and that we're all serving the people. So if we use that approach, then we probably will have a more rational government that has metrics for delivery, that knows that you haven't done anything unless you put a smile on the face of children, women, students, that will get services delivered without fanfare. That you can have water, electricity, you can have school running. Let's say you have 4 years of a school calendar that's not disrupted. You can go to the post office and post a letter and be confident that the next morning the other person is going to receive the letter. Simple things, that the president is going to obey the law, the police will be the first to obey the law, the armed forces will obey the law, and that you can travel around the country in peace and tranquility. If we achieve that, we have achieved something. Then the next person can pick it up from there. But if it's just about calculation and over-calculation, we just dribble ourselves into the same square one. We don't want to be part of that.
In fact, you've answered part of the question I was going to ask next, which is, look, from what you've told us, this person, your running mate, which you're still working on, but I'm imagining that you will be ahead of the deadline. The deadline is Friday. Other parties have indicated that they actually will be ready by Wednesday. This person must be thoroughly familiar with your vision and be able to sell it and key into it and act from it. Now, I was going to ask, therefore, it'll be interesting to see what is your vision that your running mate has to key into, and that's why I said you've actually answered part of it when you spoke last.
Yes, the vision is as follows. We start from where Adewale stopped. Farewell to poverty. And because in the last 29 years after that, there has been insecurity added to the bouquet. So we say farewell to poverty and insecurity. And in dealing with poverty, we first know that the government is the author and finisher of our poverty. Why? Because by laws and various laws, every commanding height of the economy has been taken over by the government. So you cannot even open a shop without the government asking you to come and pay tax or to give you a license. You cannot exploit minerals around you. You cannot export goods without customs checking you. You can't import anything without customs checking you. So government is everywhere. So if people are poor, the government is responsible. Secondly, the resources of the country are vested in the government. Even land is vested in the government. So government is in charge of the poverty that people have. The poverty is not natural. So the first thing I will do is to set up a government under me that does not promote poverty. And how do you not promote poverty? You comply with Chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution, which tells the government on how to deploy the money, other assets and resources of the country, and how to give opportunity to every Nigerian. And we are told in our fundamental objective and directive principle of state policy that we must not concentrate the resources of the country in the hand of a few. This is not just an egalitarian wish, it is an effective metric for ensuring that one person doesn't have too much and the other is left in want. Secondly, that you get all the talents on the table. And the way to get all the talents on the table is that if you have 1,000 graduates and you give employment to 7, you have not only made the 993 poor, you have also denied them contribution to the economy. So my job is to ensure that the way the government is giving me my job as president, I don't get sworn in and tell people that it's not the job of the government to give job to people. That is an error. My job is to give job to every Nigerian. After all, even in Keynesian theory of economics, the main objective of fiscal and monetary policy is full employment. So I need to give Nigerians full employment. How do I give Nigerians full employment? I give them full employment, number one, by ensuring that people don't steal Nigerian money off balance sheet as they are doing so now. That all the money that we generate from minerals, oil, taxes, overflight, charges, levies are not stolen. Nothing is stolen and everything is put in the kitty. And nothing will be stolen if I, as president, don't want anything to be stolen. If I am not keeping a secret book somewhere for myself and for those who are around me, either in the name of security or any other guys, where the people's money is taken away off balance sheet. Now, if you stop that, you have enough money to create works. And how do you create works? You invest in agriculture. There are micro dams that we can build all over the country. If you are building 1,000 dams, you need to employ 1,000 persons per dam. And that's 1 million people working. And if 1 million people are working, that's 5 million people within the sphere of that employment. You need to construct roads, not just have 2 or 3. On the average, now they have 7 big companies that are responsible for all the road construction of the federal government. That cannot continue. It's unconstitutional. You need to increase that pool to about 2,000 companies, construction companies having access to road contracts. You cannot be building roads, a 200-kilometer road, from one end of the community to the other, and the people in that community don't get jobs from that road construction. That was not how PWD worked in those days. In the First Republic, where the PWD and other the military, the PWD, if they were doing a road in your community, the youth of that community will find jobs. It's not like you busing people from far away to that place. When we were building the railways that we had from Ido all the way to Karanamoda, every community, Mokwa, Kafanchan, all those places, there are still communities today that are the remnants of the descendants of railway workers. Now we are doing railway lines everywhere. What you see are Chinese faces. I have nothing against the Chinese, but I don't think that beyond bringing the technology here, they should bring people to come and put calipers and a few things and slippers on the rail line. We should be able to do that by ourselves. So those are the things you do, and then you need to build more hospitals. Now we have a war going on, whether we like it or not, going on in the northeast and the northwest and the north central, and we have insecurity all over the place. It's an opportunity for recruitment into the security services. During the Nigerian Civil War, a lot of young people who later became managers, store owners, and all of that were people who were recruited to fight in the Nigerian Civil War. And when they were demobilized, they were given a lot of payoff, and they were able to do that. So we're having a huge budget for defense, 4 trillion, 1.8 trillion, 5 trillion, depending on the numbers. And all that money is going to foreign contractors and some esoteric procurement that does not trickle down to the people. Even if you go to the military barracks, you don't have a feeling that we are spending so much on defense. People are just sharing the money as it were.
You say esoteric. So
those are the things you need to do.
Sorry, sir. You say esoteric procurements. Yes.
For example, you pay millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars on drones, and the bandits are still there. So, whereas if you spend some of that money recruiting people into local intelligence, the people will be loyal to you, and they are going to get a reasonable income. So there are so many other things that I don't. There are many platforms that have been purchased that have not been used. It just made people multi-billionaires, but these things have not been used.
Okay.
Because it's easier to make money for big men by saying you are procuring all those things. But in reality, if you motivate the troops, and for example, we are under strength. I don't want to expose the military beyond necessary because I'm going to Commander-in-Chief very soon. But you could have noticed that we are under strength. Many of the battalions are not able to deploy effectively because the recruitment is not there. And it's not for the commander on the field to recruit for himself. That's the job of the Supreme Headquarters and of my job as Commander-in-Chief to see that I rotate my troop, I don't get them too tired, and I don't take them to places they're not familiar with.
Okay.
If you look at Nigerian Civil War, the 3rd Marine Commando was led by Adekunle, but Adakoboro was there, and many of those people were familiar with the creeks and the area of the theater were there. Okay. When General Shua was leading his own troops to cross from Makodi or to get to Suka, he was leading it, but majority of the middle belt boys were all there because they were familiar with the territory. Okay. And that's how you win the war. So it's not what they do now. And those things will create employment, and then you ensure that you have military hospitals, and that will create, you can hire every year, if we are recruiting 2,000 doctors into the military, I think that will create employment. And if we build hostels in all our universities,
Mr. Adebayo, one second, please. I think you've sort of cleared it up a bit for me, because I was going to ask you that, look, you talk about it's your job, that is the job of government, should you indeed be voted the president, to give people jobs. But I was going to ask you, people are talking about it's not government's job to give people jobs, but to create an enabling environment. But as I said, as you were speaking, I was getting a clearer perspective on what you were talking about. We started this off by speaking about the how you're going about selecting your running mate, and I thank you for giving us insights into that. But one final one. A lot of the things you said seem to lead towards big governance, big government, and most politicians are talking about the need for less government, to make government smaller in order to save a lot of money. Could you give me a brief, your brief thought on that, because we have to go?
Okay, thank you. People who say it is not the job of government to give people jobs, they themselves are holding government jobs. So that's, they don't believe in it. If they believe that it is not the job of government to give job to people, they should just give up their own government job first as a sign. But when they come into government, whether as commissioner, whether as the director general, whether at whatever level they enter the government, they stay there forever. Those who came as DG are now governors, and they have been ministers. Those who come as ministers end up becoming governors. So it is the job of government to give job to people. Even the president of Nigeria today, he joined the government at the age of 18. He's now 70-something. He's still inside government. He's not done a private thing after that. So what I'm letting you realize is that the enabling environment you are talking about requires the government itself to lead the example. As a private person, I've employed thousands in broadcasting, in communication, in agriculture, in pharmaceutical, in finance, in construction. And I've seen that if you don't give people a job, you are not going to help the economy. And the only way you can vote for a job is how you spend your money. And the largest spender in government all over the world is government.
Okay, Mr. Adebayo, we're going to have to leave it there.
The government has to create the job and lead in that.
Indeed, we're going to have to leave it there. But I do thank you very much for making the time to come on and tell us about your efforts towards sourcing a running mate, and this will be revealed very soon. Final note, you actually don't need till Friday, or will you be down to the wire in submitting the name of your running mate to INEC?
No, it is not me that will submit the name to
I know, your party.
INEC. It's my party.
I'm talking about your party.
Yeah, I'm consulting with my party. We have too many talents. That's the problem we have in SDP.
Okay, but you're not going to jam the deadline.
We are qualified, and
But you're not going to jam the deadline. You're going to be within the deadline.
On time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, sir.
Within the deadline, I think we'll do everything right.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Adewale Adebayo, SDP presidential candidate, and indeed owner of Kaftan TV. Thank you very much.